to start. This is on State versus Garret Ean. Full name, please?
Jean Kilham. And if you can remain standing and raise your right hand once you reach the chair. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give in this matter will be the truth and the clean and held and perjury? Okay, you please have a seat. You can state your full name and spell your last for the record.
It's Jean Kilham, McDermott.
And how are you employed?
I'm a parking enforcement officer at the City of Keene.
And for how long have you been so employed?
Next month will be a year. 2 years, 20.
And can you just describe what are your duties as a parking enforcement officer?
I patrol the streets and look for violations of parking meters or just parking violations in general. If they're in a reserved spot or parked the wrong way or on the sidewalk.
And if there are any violations, then you'll issue a parking ticket?
Correct.
And can you just describe what types of meters are used in Keene?
They are coin-operated meters. They're quartz time.
So are they digital?
Yes.
And how are they maintained? Just describe. How do you know if the meter is functioning properly?
Well, they signal you. If they have signals on them if the batteries are getting low. If the batteries die, they come up with the word dead or fail if they're jammed or if there's a problem where they're not reading correctly, and then we remove them and switch them out with other mechanisms.
And drawing your attention to February 25th of this year, 2014, at about 2:20 in the afternoon, and then again at about 4:30 in the afternoon, were you on duty as a parking enforcement officer for the City of Keene?
I was, yes.
And do you recall issuing a ticket at both of those times to a particular vehicle, specifically a blue Ford Taurus?
I do.
And let's talk first about the ticket that was issued at 2:20 in the afternoon. Do you recall the location of that?
It was on St. James Street in Keene. I was in Gilbo lot and he pulled up on St. James Street.
And what were the circumstances? Can you just describe what you recall specifically about that violation?
Well, there's a history with Mr. Ean, as he is a rob and quitter. And when I was in Gilbo lot, he pulled up and ran into the lot to try to plug meters that I hadn't gotten to yet. And when he did not fill his meter. So I walked toward his car, and he started to run over, but he stopped and watched me. So I turned to him and said, "Would you like to put change in the meter?" And he said, "Maybe I want to go to court." And so he did not put money in his meter, and I wanted to.
Okay. So, and just to confirm, before you issued that ticket, did you check the meter and make sure that it was reading?
It was expired, yes.
Expired, okay. And do you recognize Garret Ean in the courtroom today?
Yes.
And can you describe where he's seated for the record?
He's right in front of me.
Will the record reflect the witness again?
Yes.
And first, so when you issue a ticket, how do you issue a ticket?
I have a handheld, it's like a mini computer. I put the information on it and it prints out like what you have in your hand.
And what type of information specifically?
The make and color of the vehicle, license plate number, if it's from what state the registration number is.
The state would ask to mark for identification, states Exhibit 1.
Okay.
It's just for ID at this point?
Well, if he's not going to object to it, because he doesn't exhibit, I'd like to enter that name.
No objection.
As an exhibit, you know, no objection. States 1.
Mr. McDermott, I'm handing you what has been entered as State's Exhibit 1. Is that the parking ticket that you issued to Mr. Ean on the date in question and time in question?
It is.
And what motor vehicle registration is that for specifically? If you could read the motor vehicle registration on that ticket.
AKPF 1, New Hampshire.
And is it your understanding that that particular vehicle is registered to Garret Ean?
Yes.
State would seek to enter State's Exhibit 2 a certified copy of the motor vehicle registration.
No objection.
Have copies of these?
I'm here.
That's number 2.
So, Chairman, I'm handing you what's been entered in State's Exhibit 2. Is that the motor vehicle registration for Mr. Ean's car, and specifically the one that you ticketed at 2:20 on February 25th?
It is.
Just if you could just put those both exhibits up at the top. And drawing your attention now to that same day at about 4:31 in the afternoon, do you recall issuing another parking ticket to the same person, Mr. Ean, for the same vehicle, just at a different location?
Yes.
And can you describe those circumstances?
I was on Court Street and I was ticketing the side opposite of the courthouse. And Mr. Ean drove up on the other side of the street, on the side of the courthouse, and pulled up to a meter. He ran across the street where I was and began running down the street to do Robin Hooding on parking meters. And I crossed the street, noticed again that his meter was expired, and I began writing a ticket. He attempted to Robin Hood his own car, but once I started ticket, it's valid, and I finished the ticket and put it on his windshield.
And did you also get it, so you printed out a ticket with the same, similarly that you did with the
Correct.
first? And you entered the same type of information?
Yes.
No objection.
Did you enter, did you enter this as Exhibit 3? Mr. McDermott, I'm giving you what has been entered as Exhibit 3. Is that the parking ticket that you just described having issued to Mr. Ean on the date and time in question?
It is.
And if you could just put that back. And if you could, start that, is it your understanding based on your training and experience as a parking enforcement officer that at the times that you issued those 2 tickets, both meters were functioning properly?
Correct, yes.
Thank you. I have another question.
Okay, Mr. Ean.
Officer McDermott, you stated you've been a parking enforcer for almost 2 years. Do you have any prior experience in law enforcement?
No.
You can answer that question.
No.
So, drawing your attention to the initial ticket that was issued at about 2:20 p.m., you identified that you were in the Gilbo lot and you saw the vehicle pull up on St. James Street. Is that correct?
Yes.
How long have there been meters on St. James Street?
Since I've been working here, but I don't know the exact length of time that they've been on that street.
Do you recall seeing if there were any passengers in the vehicle?
No.
No, you don't recall?
I
No, there weren't any passengers, and no, you don't recall if there were any passengers?
I don't recall if anybody else got out of the vehicle.
You know, you identified as having asked a question when you approached the expired meter, and you believed that the response of the driver was, maybe I want to go to court?
Yes.
So you believe that there was an intention on the part of the driver not to fill the meter?
You had a response when I asked you if you were going to put money in your meter. And that was your response. I don't know what your intentions were, but that was the response that you made.
Do you recall if the driver made any attempts to fill the meter?
No, you stood there and watched me write the ticket. The first ticket. The second ticket, you did attempt to put money in your meter. I stated that.
Are there circumstances, specifically referring to the St. James Street meter, are there circumstances by which a vehicle parked in that space could occupy an expired meter and not be issued a ticket?
If there was no parking enforcement around, and they might get away with it.
Are there certain vehicles that are exempt from that sort of parking enforcement in that space?
Certain vehicles that are exempt, like government vehicles are exempt, yes.
Okay. Aside from government vehicles, are there any other sorts of vehicles that would be exempt from the meter violations?
Objection, I don't know if he wants to ask about a specific exemption, but I don't think it's relevant.
Is there a specific exemption you think is appropriate or applicable to this case?
I'll withdraw my vote. You stated that the driver of the vehicle, in both instances, left their meter before filling it and tried to fill other meters. So would you say that the driver of the vehicle appeared to be thinking more of others' expired meters than their own?
Objection calls for speculation, and also it's not relevant.
And I'll let you ask one or two questions in this vein, but really you're kind of straying from what I have to understand and decide here.
Okay, so to repeat the question, did it appear to you as though the driver of the vehicle was paying more attention to the expired meters of others than them?
Yes.
Drawing your attention to the details of the second infraction, alleged infraction, which occurred at 4:30. You cited that you saw the vehicle approach from across the street. Do you recall the manner in which the driver of the vehicle crossed to the opposite side of the street?
I'm confused at what, are you asking me if the first part, were you driving, you drove up to the parking spot, and then you ran across the street?
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
So that would mean that you saw the driver of the vehicle cross the street. So there wasn't traffic in the road, they were able to just walk across the street?
It was winter time, so yeah, traffic was late.
Did the driver use a crosswalk to cross?
I do not believe so, but I cannot be certain. I don't recall how far up we were on the road to know if you were near the crosswalk or not.
Well, you might not recall where you were standing that particular time. We do have the specific meter number, so we know the exact location of that.
No, it's relevant whether you use a crosswalk to cross the street.
It probably isn't, but you're trying to ask her if she recalls a specific location of the specific meter? Would you try to answer that question?
Do you have details of which meter it was that was expired?
I don't recall the number. I know I wrote it at the time on the ticket. The meter number is on the ticket.
Is it possible that that meter is a significant distance from the crosswalk?
I have no idea.
Objection relevant.
Why is it relevant about how far the meter is from the crosswalk?
Well, if I continue my line of questioning, I'll be asking about how the parking enforcer herself transported herself across the street, whether or not the crosswalk was utilized.
Whether you used the crosswalk, if it was you in fact, or whether she used the crosswalk, how does that bear on the issue I have to decide as to whether or not the parking meter ordinance was violated? That's the question.
It's a matter of whether or not extraordinary measures were used to to target a specific meter at a specific time, and whether or not the parking enforcer went outside of her standard procedure of approaching meters to do so.
Targeting a specific meter on the other side of Court Street or the one she says you were on?
On the side of Court Street where the court building is.
Which is the one she says you were on. I know you're not acknowledging that, but she says that was you.
Yes.
I don't know
So
if that's
that's-
relevant either. I mean, she saw a violation and she issued a ticket.
I don't see how it's relevant, the question, at least the way you're asking it. You might try another way.
So I'm not able to ask the details of how the parking enforcer approached the vehicle in this circumstance?
You can ask her if she remembers how she approached the vehicle, but if you're trying to say whether she used a crosswalk or not, that's not relevant. If she says she doesn't recall, she doesn't recall. But you can ask her that. But,
I don't know if she's gone that far yet to say she did.
well, I'll just say, I'll let you ask her questions as to what action she took and how she took it. But this crosswalk stuff is not really getting anywhere.
Okay.
At least so far.
So you identified the driver as having crossed the street and began filling meters, correct?
Yes.
And you transported yourself, what was your next course of action before you spotted that violation? How did you approach that?
I walked across the street, and I do not recall if I used the crosswalk or not. There was no traffic. I crossed the street.
Did you increase your speed of movement to approach the vehicle?
I do not recall.
Is it possible that you ran to the vehicle?
It's actually relevant, so I don't understand why this is relevant.
I think I see what he's getting at, but I think you just have to kind of frame your questions a little bit more directly, and I think you'll make a little more headway here. And it sounds to me as if you're trying to suggest that the witness acted a little bit more vigorously in enforcing the parking violation against you than she might have against someone else. Is that what you're trying to suggest here?
Sure.
Okay. Why don't you ask her if she did that?
You stated that in the issuance of the second ticket on Court Street that the driver made an attempt to fill the meter, is that correct?
Yes.
Generally, when someone approaches you while you're in the process of issuing a ticket and approaches with change to put in the meter, you generally allow them to do that and not issue the ticket?
It depends on if I've already started the ticket or not. If I've started a ticket, and I generally continue to write that ticket.
But not always?
There are circumstances where people run up, they have change in their hand, they have had to go into a store to get change. They come out with change in their hand, and then I allow them to put the change in the meter, and I don't continue to write the ticket. The circumstances that are different.
Do you recall if the driver made an attempt to approach and fill the meter prior to your beginning to enter the information into your parking computer?
You were busy filling meters. I crossed the street to get away from you, as I usually do when you're out Robin Hooding. I saw that your meter was expired. I began to write the ticket. You ran across the street again to try to fill the meter because you're doing your Robin Hooding thing, and I continued to write the ticket because I had already started it.
So you would say with certainty that you began entering the information onto the computer prior to any attempt that you witnessed of the driver to fill the meter?
Yes.
So you would say that prior to this instance you were familiar with the vehicle in question, correct?
I've seen it, yes.
And you were familiar with the license plate on the vehicle?
I am now, yes.
Does the license plate hold any significance or have any meaning to you?
No. I know that it's a play on Keene parking enforcement, but I don't know the significance of where you got those initials.
Has the driver of the vehicle ever provided assistance to the Keene parking enforcement team?
Objection relevant, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Has the driver of the vehicle ever acted at the request of parking enforcers in the past to help them fulfill their duties?
Objection relevant.
Sustained.
Has the driver of the vehicle ever retrieved erroneously issued tickets or filled meters at the request of the parking enforcers?
I didn't quite hear all the words. Say again.
Okay, has the